So today I'm going to show you how to make this spider granny square that I designed. I'm a huge fan of spiders. They are so cute in my opinion. And what I've done today is I've done kind of a variety of yarns and threads so that you get a feel for what this particular design looks like using different yarns and threads. For example, this piece right here was made using that worsted weight cotton yarn that one might use to make washcloths or pot holders with. This one is made using a yarn that is a cotton silk blend. It's a worsted weight and kind of your standard size yarn that you typically think of when you're thinking of a crochet project. This one right here is used with a size 3 yarn. This is actually a cotton and synthetic blend. It's a finer yarn. It has a really nice sheen to it. And of course, it's a little smaller than the other ones that I just showed you because the yarn is only a size 3. So it's much lighter weight, much more delicate if you like. And then this size and this one was actually made using Aunt Lydia's, my regular go-to in crochet yarn, classic size 10. I think these motifs are a lot of fun, and this design really is fairly easy. Anyone can do it, a beginner to an advanced. You could do it anything as basic as this that a beginner might do to something that has a little more detail like this one in terms of advanced work. Welcome to Weaving Wyrd Studio. My name is Sig, and it is such a pleasure to have this time with you today. It's your support that allows me to contribute new content and weekly videos. Help us all grow together by tapping the subscribe bar, notification bell, and like buttons. I look forward to your comments and always value your feedback. So for today's tutorial, I will be using this plum colored yarn, black yarn, this light purple yarn, and this kind of silvery gray yarn, which is called Winter Lake. I'm also going to be using a size E hook or US size 4, of course a pair of scissors, and a yarn needle. So as usual, you're going to be able to use just about any yarn or thread you'd like to. I have all the threads and the yarns that I've used on the examples earlier in the description box below. So you can make any adaptations that you need with regards to that. Just make sure that the hook that you use is appropriate for the size yarn or thread that you're using, and then also that the thread or yarn that you use are consistently the same size. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to start off by making the heart first, and that's pretty simple. In this case, I'm going to use the purple, and I'm going to begin by making an adjustable or magic ring. So I'm going to start by putting in my slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 3 and 3. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a double crochet once, twice, and 3 times. Then I'm going to do 3 half double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to make a double crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1 again. And then I'm going to do 3 half double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm going to do 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to chain 3. And I'm going to finish off with a slip stitch. And tighten up my ring. And now you can see I've created a small heart. Now at this point in this particular piece, I'm going to actually go ahead and I'm going to weave in my tails. Now that I've got my ends woven in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch my color to black. I'm going to then insert my hook into this first chain of the last 3 chain stitch that we made. So I'm going to insert my hook right here at the top of the heart on the right side. I'm going to make a slip stitch right there, and in that same stitch I'm going to do a single crochet. Also, keep in mind that for this heart part we are working in the back loop only. So make sure that you just do the back loop of that chain. Then the next chain I'm going to half double crochet, and then right into the center of this heart I'm going to do a double crochet. Then in the second chain of the first chain, 3 chain segment of this heart, I am going to do a half double crochet. And then in the third chain, I am going to do a single crochet. Then I'm going to do 2 more single crochets, back loop only. So 1 and 2. And then the next 2 stitches, back loop only, I'm going to do a half double crochet. So 1, 2. Then I'm going to do a double crochet in the next stitch. Again, back loop only. And then 1 more double crochet, back loop only. Then I'm going to skip this chain 1 space, and I'm going to do a half double crochet in the next stitch, back loop only. Then I'm going to skip this next chain 1 space, and I'm going to do a double crochet in the next stitch, back loop only. Again, another double crochet, back loop only. And then I'm going to do a half double crochet, back loop only, a half double crochet again, back loop only, and then 2 more single crochets. So now we're going to join. I'm going to chain 1, and then in that same stitch, I'm going to go ahead and do a single crochet, and then a single crochet, and then a single crochet. So far you should have 3 single crochets in this second row of your black color. And then in the 4th stitch, you're going to do 2 single crochets and increase. And we're going to continue that pattern all the way around. So single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, and then an increase. Single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, and then an increase. And then again, single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, and then an increase. Then I'm going to do a single crochet, that last single crochet, and then I'm going to join. So at this point, you should have 21 stitches around your heart. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Then we're going to go ahead and make a chain. Then I'm going to skip the next stitch, and in the back loop only, I am going to double crochet. Then I'm going to do 4 more double crochets in that same back loop. And that should leave me with 5 double crochets. Then the back loop, I'm going to skip the next chain, and then I'm going to finish off this piece with a slip stitch. Then the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to embroider the couple of little embellishments that you see on the body of the spider. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a length of yarn or thread, the same color, or you can do a contrasting color as well if you like, of my heart. And I'm going to weave the back end a little bit just to anchor in my yarn. And then I'm going to start from the center of my heart, and I'm going to start working my way around the outside of the heart. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stitch a chain stitch. Or I guess I could say I'm going to embroider a chain stitch. And I'm going to do that all the way on the outer edge of the heart. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a basic chain stitch. Just try to keep your stitches a consistent size, but a little bigger, a little smaller, you're going to be fine, I think. And by doing this, we clean up the outer edge of the heart, and it gives the body of your spider just a little more dimension without taking away from the flatness of it, since it is a granny square, without making it too poofy or cumbersome. Okay, so now I have my heart completed on the body of my spider. And at this point, I'm actually going to weave my yarn, because I think I have enough in length, up towards the head. So I'm just going to kind of snake it through these back loops of the piece where it can't be seen, up to the head. Now you may have to cut yourself a new piece of yarn or thread, that's okay. But at this point, I'm going to use this yarn to represent the eyes of my spider. So we're going to have 4 eyes showing, and how I do that is just really just making a simple French knot. So I wrap my yarn around my needle 3 times, and then I reinsert my needle into the fabric very close to where I had brought my needle out. And then I'm careful not to pull too tight too quickly, but it gives me a nice knot. I'm going to do that 3 more times. I'm going to decide about where I want the next eye to be. There we go, eye 2. Wrap 3 times. And then reinsert it into the fabric very close to where I had originally pulled the needle out to begin my eye, or my French knot. That gives me the second one, or sorry, the third one. And then 1 more eye. Okay, I got the 4 eyes for my spider. Now I'm going to weave this last tail into the back of my piece, and I will show you how to do the web next. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the color yarn that I want to use for my webbing, and in this case it's going to be this Winter Lake color. And I'm going to leave myself a pretty long tail because I'm going to need to be able to weave that tail up the webbing in order to hide it properly. So I'm going to begin by starting at the very bottom of my spider, about so. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 3. Then I'm going to chain 2 more, so a total of 5. I'm going to skip a stitch, and then I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch. I'm going to chain 2, skip a stitch, and then double crochet in the next stitch. Again, double crochet or chain 2, skip a stitch, and double crochet. Chain 2, skip a stitch, and double crochet. Chain 2, skip a stitch, and half double crochet. Chain 2, skip a stitch, and single crochet. Chain 2, skip a stitch, and half double crochet. Chain 2, and skip a stitch, and then double crochet. And chain 2, skip a stitch, and double crochet. Chain 2, skip a stitch, and double crochet. Chain 2, skip a stitch, double crochet. And chain 2, skip a stitch, and double crochet. I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to go ahead and double crochet into that next stitch. And then chain 2, and I'm going to then join. So the next thing you're going to want to do is chain 3, and then chain 3 more. And then double crochet in the next double crochet. Then chain 3, and double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 3, and double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 3, double crochet in the next stitch. You're going to want to do this all the way around. So now that you've made your way all the way around, you're going to want to go ahead and chain 3 more after joining. And you're going to want to make 1 more round of webbing. So that means you're going to need to chain 4 in addition, and then double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 4, and then double crochet in the next stitch. And continue all the way around as before. Now I'm going to join again in that 3rd chain. And a chain 1. So your piece should look something like this. And now the next thing we want to do is to single crochet 5 single crochets in each of the next chain 4 spaces. So 5, and we're going to chain 5 in this space. And then we're going to chain 5 in the next, chain 4 space, and so on and so forth until we've made a complete round. And so now your piece should look like this, and you should have a total of 70 single crochets around the edge of your piece. Now you're going to switch to your last color. In my case, I'm going to use this Plum. And I am going to start right here at this one crossbar in the webbing that is kind of at the center bottom of the spider's body. I'm going to chain 1, and then that same space I'm going to single crochet 1. And then I'm going to single crochet 4 more times in each consecutive stitch. So I'll have a total of 5 single crochets. And then I'm going to half double crochet in the next stitch, and then half double crochet in the stitch after that. I'm going to do a double crochet in the following stitch. Now I'm going to begin my corner, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do a treble crochet in the next stitch once, and then another treble crochet in that same stitch. So 2 trebles in the same stitch right there. And then I'm going to single crochet 1. And then I'm going to do 2 more treble crochets in the very next stitch together. So I have 1 and then 2 right there in that same stitch together. And that'll be my first corner. Then I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch. And then I'm going to half double crochet and then half double crochet. And then I'm going to single crochet 10 times. So, and then I'm going to start my corner process all over again. So I'm going to do a half double crochet once, and then a half double crochet again, and then a double crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 trebles in the stitch after that. Then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to do 2 more trebles in the following stitch. Sorry, maybe. Let's try this again. 2 more trebles in this following stitch. Yeah, I know. Some days are just like this. Then I'm going to do a double crochet in the next stitch, and then a half double crochet twice. And then again, I'm going to do 10 single crochets. Nine, 10. And then I'm going to continue just as before to finish up the corners. So I'll let you go ahead and do the next 2 corners, and then I'll meet you back here towards the end of this row. Now that you've finished your 4th corner, you're basically going to have 3 stitches left, but we really want to have 5 stitches worked in there. So we're going to have an increase in 2 places. So the first increase is going to occur right here next to this half double crochet. We're just going to go in there and we're going to go ahead and make a single crochet. And then I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch. And then in the stitch after that, I'm going to do 2 single crochets. And then in the stitch after that, I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and then I'm going to join. And then I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to single crochet across the row until I get to the chain 1 space. And then when I get to the chain 1 space, I'm going to single crochet 3 single crochets right in there at that corner. And then I'm going to continue to single crochet across the next edge. And then I'm going to do 3 single crochets in the next chain 1 space. And I'm going to continue that pattern all the way around until I've finished off. So now you should have a piece that looks like this. I'm going to tie this off. And as before, with this piece, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to weave in these two tails that I have. So I'm going to weave this plum tail in the usual way. And now with my Winter Lake color tail, I'm actually going to weave that along the back loops of the leg of the webbing. Either way is fine, so that I can weave it in up here and get it out of the way and it's not noticeable. Now you weave it the way you like to. That's just how I weave it for this particular piece. Okay, so the back is nice and clean. Your back should look something like this. And then this is what we have for the front. Okay, so depending on where you started and how you did your webbing and how your yarn laid, your spider will most likely not be perfectly up and down, which is fine because it adds much more personality to the piece. So you might find your spider's going to sit a little this way or a little that way. It's all perfect. Or maybe you wanted your spider to actually point a corner, so then you would have actually started your outer rim of your granny square not coming off the center of the bottom part of your spider's body, but maybe more over to one side or the other. So you can really play with this. Also, the next thing is we're going to discuss a couple of different things. So now it's time to get the legs on, right? We're going to do the legs and then finish the body. And for some of you, you may decide that you actually want to block this piece first. So you want to make sure that you have it stretched to about the size or the flatness or the squareness and have it all set up and ready to go that way before you actually embroider your legs on. Or you may not worry about that. You may have a little experience embroidering, and so you kind of have an idea on how to already alter your tension and how to work the legs over the webbing in a way that isn't going to be affected by the blocking that you do when the piece, at the end of the piece. So you have a couple of different ways you can do this. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start the legs now so I can show you how that's done. So as before, I'm going to take a length of yarn, the same yarn I used for the body. And then as before, I'm going to just kind of weave it into the back a little bit just to anchor it in, because you don't want any knots if you can avoid them. And then I'm going to pull my yarn through this little spot right here. And I'm going to decide about where I want my first legs. So as you can see on here, your spider's going to have 8 legs. So I'm going to have these, kind kind of just do my spider legs like this, as you see on this one little thread motif. Now you can do your legs in any direction you want to. I just kind of like having them in a more of a uniformed kind of look that lets me know I'm looking at a spider, basically. And again, I'm going to be doing the chain stitch. I'm going to decide about where I want my leg to end up. So I think I'm going to want my leg to end up, you know, have a little curve and end up right about here. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain stitch my leg going in the direction I think it ought to be going. And I'm going to do that with each leg, right? So you don't have to sit here and watch me do that. In fact, you can go ahead and start working on your own legs. Just figure out where the placement needs to be, kind of a typical spider, and then you have this right here to kind of give you a better idea if you have a hard time visualizing what that should look like. And just keep in mind your chain stitches don't necessarily have to be connected to anything. In fact, you're going to find that there's going to be areas where your chains are just kind of free flowy. So you see kind of like right here. And that's okay. That adds a nice effect to the webbing effect and gives the spider more of a free floating look. So just take your time. For those of you who aren't really familiar with embroidery, you know, the chain stitch in embroidery is very similar to the chain stitch in crocheting, except instead of using a hook, you're using a needle. So now I've got my first leg where I want it to be, and I'm just going to insert my hook and pull it through the back. And then I got my second leg that I want to do, so I think I'm going to start my second leg, about here in between these two legs of the web. So probably about the middle center of this chain 4 space right in here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my yarn and I'm just going to weave it through the back so that you can't see it in the front, through these back loops of the yarn or of my crocheted fabric until I get to the position that I want to start my next leg in, which I believe is going to be right about there. Yep, right about there. I'm going to pull my, and then I'm going to begin doing the same thing, except this time I'm going to do my chain stitch going towards the spider until we get back to the body. And then, of course, when I do get over a webbing part, I do want to make that connection with my yarn to give it an anchor point. And just remember, as you're making your chains, you want to watch your tension. Don't pull it too tight. Don't let it be too loose. That's usually the trickiest part of this type of, well, of any embroidery stitch, I would have to say. Okay, so now we got our next leg. And of course, I just need to bring my needle back up through the fabric in a slightly different spot, but close to where I had inserted it. And then I'm going to figure out where I want my next direction of my leg to go into, and that's where I'm going to follow. So I'm going to kind of keep my eye on this region right here is where I'm going to end my spider's leg. And I'll finish this side of the spider, and then I'll leave you to do the next side of the spider on your own, at which time I will then come back and show you how to finish up the rest of the body. Okay, so I finished the legs, and now what we're going to do is we're going to do the body. And the body is going to also be a chain stitch. And I'm going to chain stitch around the head first, and then I'm going to chain stitch around the body. And I'm going to just do it just on the outside of the body shape, just kind of like you see here, but it's a little difficult to see here because the chain stitch that I made in black. But now on this spider, I will do it in this dark plum color, and it'll give the spider a different look, so you can kind of see what that looks like, and it'll also give you a chance to see the stitching. So just as before, I'm going to have my yarn, and I'll weave it in the back to anchor it. And then I'm going to come up just on this side of the head. And I'm going to start making my chain stitch around the head. It's a very simple stitch, as you've already seen. And stay tuned. Over the next several months, I'm going to be doing even more spider motifs. I happen to like spiders. I hope you do too. So as you can see, I've done the head, and now I'm going to just go along the outside of the body in this purple. So now that I've finished this spider granny square, you can see some of the added details I threw in there. Kept it really simple. I put in some additional purple stitching into the legs to kind of give a little interest to the spider. We added a little dimension to the eyes, did a little extra work on the body. So these spiders are awesome. You can do whatever you want. You can do as much or as little to them as you like. And so with that, until we meet again, I'd like to say to all you wonderful and weird fiber artists, stay safe, stay amazing, and above all, stay crafty.